Tomorrow, a fast-approaching deadline millions around the U.S. are likely dreading. The U.S. Department of Education will resume collections on defaulted student loans. That starts on Monday. This action will affect 5.3 million borrowers who the government says have not made a payment in over a year and ends a 5-year break from collections. That started during the COVID-19 pandemic. NewsNation's Alicia Nieves is here to break this all down for us. So what are student loan borrowers now facing starting in less than 24 hours?
This is a story that student loan borrowers really need to pay attention to, because the consequences could be swift. If you're someone right now who is in default and you work for the federal government, your wages immediately could be garnished. Even if you don't work for the federal government, you'll get a 30-day notification if you're in default, and then they'll contact your employer and start garnishing your wage. We just came out of the tax season. If you were someone who was going to get a refund, that could now also be garnished. This is something that's affecting some 40+ million of Americans. About 9 million of them are in default. 5 million of them have been default or have not paid in about a year, and about 4 million haven't paid in the last 3 months or so. So this is something you cannot avoid. As you can see there, 38% of the people are only in repayment. That's 60-something% who are not, and that's a really important point, because those are the people that most importantly need to contact the student loan government authorities.
An important number and just a lot of Americans.
Yeah.
What does this mean if you haven't been paying your student loan debt in the last few years or a few months?
We have started to see something that we haven't seen in years. Credit agencies are now reporting on this default, and so you have some of these 9 million people who have come out who are in default and said their credit has taken a hit, something like 50 points. Some people, I've heard stories of a 100-point dip. For other people, obviously credit is so critical for us in this economy and in the society, right? It leads to higher payments, can be costly on if you're applying for a mortgage, if you're applying for a car loan. It could have some serious consequences there. Even if you can't afford a mortgage or a car loan, if you need an apartment, which all of us do, room and board, a cell phone plan, that could lead to higher payments there. So this is going to affect individual borrowers, but I have to also know, bigger picture, it impacts the economy. Remember, when Biden put this into place, it was to shift money away from student loan repayment to help people pay for things like groceries that were more expensive, the cost of living. Now shifting that back means that people are not going to be able to spend as much money, and 70% of the economy is based on consumer spending. So this could be a hit to our economy as well.
So this is going to have a ripple effect, potentially. Yeah. Is there anything borrowers can now do?
The first thing people have to do is just take action. Do not ignore this, because again, the consequences could be swift here. Contact your student loan borrower immediately. Find out if you're in default or not. A lot of people don't know whether they're in default or not, because people haven't made payments, some cases, in years since the pandemic. So, find that out, of course. Sign up for a student loan repayment plan right now. Got to note that right now there's about a dozen different options for student loan repayment, but the Republican plan that's coming up only has about 2 options. So you're going to want to look closely at how things shift over the next couple of weeks and months with repayments. But just do not ignore this, and know that in the next 2 weeks there's some notices that are going to be going out to people to let them know, but don't rely on that.
This is such an important story affecting millions of people in our country. Alicia Nieves, thank you so much for that.
Of course.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.